who would like to break the ice and give a partial or what you believe is a full definition of forecasting? And it's okay if you're not completely correct. Yes?
Reporting on stuff that's going to happen in the near future.
It's reporting on stuff that's going to happen in the near future. That is true. Yes?
Like an estimation.
An estimation. Okay. Yes, Cole?
To predict or estimate.
You guys are looking up Google. That's good. Yeah, so for me, the most consistent forecasting that I look at is weather. The second most consistent forecasting that I look at or listen to is financial markets. Not that I'm, investing or anything, but it's just kind of good to know where things are at when people talk about our financial system, because we are in a capitalistic society. So you're right in the sense that forecasting is trying to the best of your ability, look into the future, right? Now, how do we define that when we're looking at forecasting for students at West Salem High School? What is that? Because that's what you'll be doing in February. Yes?
It's kind of like getting an idea of what you want to do with the classroom next year.
Yes, so you are planning to the best of your ability and choosing to the best of your ability the classes that you want to take for the next academic year. So for a lot of students, from my perspective, that's pretty far in the future. You're looking, towards the second half of February probably, where you're going to have to choose classes that you're going to take in the academic year 24-25. Okay? So let's write that down. So forecasting is choosing classes for the 24-25 academic year. Oh, sorry about that. I messed up my M. Academic year. Okay? Now, why do I call it an academic year? Right, because there's a calendar year, which we just started in 2024, like a couple of days ago, and that goes till the end of December. And then there's the academic year, which for most public schools starts, around Labor Day, around the beginning of September. Some start in August, some start after Labor Day, like we do. And so, but then it goes till, end of May, end of June, something like that. And then there's another thing, fiscal year, which for a lot of institutions is July 1 through June 30. Why? I don't know. It's just the way it is. Okay? So forecasting is choosing classes for 24-25 academic year. Does that mean you're sort of projecting what you're going to learn the following year? Sort of. Okay. Now, what does that entail when we're choosing classes for an academic year? How many classes do you get to choose in any one academic year? There's a tough one. Yes? Is it 4 or 6? Okay. Well, let's talk about that. We're going to figure that out. So, what classes do you get to choose? Mostly electives. Now, there are some core subjects where you have a little bit of choice in what you're going to take for a particular math class or a particular social studies class or whatever it might be. But then there are core classes which are pretty much assigned to you. Okay? How many core subjects are there? 4, right? Math, science, English, social studies. Okay? And so how many classes per semester do you have? 8. Okay, stay with me now. It's getting a little complicated, right? Okay. And then within that, you have classes that last for the whole year, like your core classes, and classes that last only a semester, which are many of your most of your elective classes. So if you get to choose your elective classes, in any one particular year, you get to choose 8 of your classes, 4 in the fall semester and 4 in the spring semester, right? So when it comes to choosing, you have at least 8 electives for fall and spring semesters. And you might get 1 or 2 core classes. It depends. It depends on a lot of stuff. Depends on how well you're doing in the core class. Depends on what kind of room in your schedule and all that kind of stuff. Okay, let's test your knowledge on this. How many credits do you need to graduate from a high school in Salem-Keizer School District? You seem a little hesitant on that. You're pretty sure, yeah? 24. Okay. Now, if you can successfully complete 8 credits a year, how many years does it take to get to 24? 3. So theoretically, everybody could graduate at the end of their junior year. Oh, wait a second. Not many people do that, for good reason, actually, right? You're here for 4 years. Now, if I understand correctly, English has a 4-year requirement, right? So that kind of sets you into your senior year. But if you're really good at it, you might be able to take 2 English classes simultaneously, or, has anybody heard of this thing called dual credit? Yeah? What's dual credit? Can you explain that to me?
Getting multiple credits for one.
Okay, and do you know how you do that? Some classes can give you credits in 2 places. Yes and no. I mean, particularly, so with this class, since I'm a CTE program, but I'm also a visual arts class, you can have credit awarded to either, but not both. Okay? But if you take a class like, say, Chemeketa Community College, and you take an English class there or a math class there that would be considered an entry-level class at the college level, but you're also taking the same class at West Salem High School, you take it at Chemeketa and you get credit for both your high school transcript and you're starting your college transcript. So it's called dual credit. You take the class once, but it covers for both transcripts, which is really cool. Because you could, theoretically, do your whole freshman year at Chemeketa College while you're a high school senior at West Salem High School and start your true college experience as a sophomore. Wow, that's awesome. Now, other advantages of only having 24 units is you've got room in your schedule to do what? What's the advantage of having some extra classes? Space, do you think? I have no idea, huh? Boy, you guys are tired today. Jeez, man, oh man. Okay? You can do 2 things. If you really messed up a class in your freshman year, I mean, you just barely passed it, and you don't like that grade on your transcript, you could do a grade repair, or you can take the class again and improve that grade on your transcript. So that's one good thing. The other good thing is if you have other classes that you want to take, other elective classes or more strenuous core classes, you have room in your schedule to do that. And then, of course, the really cool thing that a lot of people like to do is I'll take 1 or 2 classes my senior year and have the rest release. So if you want to work and get back and get into the work world while you're finishing up high school, so there's a lot of flexibility with that. Okay, so we need 24 credits to graduate. And we get 4 credits per semester, or 8 credits, oops, EDITS, I apologize for my writing, per year, okay? And then we work our way through that. Okay, so I want to show you a video that we did a couple of years ago related to the purpose of forecasting and see if it kind of helps you kind of understand the process a little bit more. Let's see here. We're going to do this, and then we're going to do wait a second here. Whoops.
Forecasting. I'm making sure I can get the classes I want. They basically give you your classes. What's the point? Well, I've got a lot of options this year. I need to see what classes will actually be interesting for me. Yeah, I've got A days here and B days at subject. I have to see what's available for me also. How are you able to do that? Forecasting. I chose to do as many intro classes freshman and sophomore year as I could. So that actually opened up a lot of opportunities for me. Everything was boring. Yeah, I knew I wasn't interested in college, but I knew I'd find something interesting. I mean, look at all this career stuff. How did you learn about all these options? Course catalog, listening to boring presentations and asking questions to the teachers and parents and students. Yeah, I went to the college and career center. There was such good information there. It was so helpful. Remember that C-Tech assembly right before COVID? What's the big deal? I'm looking forward to the last activity period. Well, I've been planning to go to college for as long as I can remember, so I need to make sure I'm options when I go to apply for colleges. Yeah, I'm not sure if college is right for me, but I definitely want to make sure I'm prepared for something decent. Maybe construction, being a chef, C-Tech stuff. Well, are you ready to choose your electives? Have you even applied for C-Tech? I think so. I just need to check my transcripts on StimView again, but so far so good.
Okay. Does this bring any clarity to why we do forecasting? You need to put that away. What's the advantage of forecasting? Why do we do it? You get the classes you want, hopefully. Yeah? Okay. And how do we do that? Oops. Man, I cannot write today. Okay, so we want to do this. So I want to introduce you to this idea called design thinking. Has anybody ever heard design thinking before? Kind of, sort of? Possibly. So any creative person, anytime you're trying to solve a problem, anytime you're trying to create something new for somebody else or another group, the best thing to do is this process called design thinking. And so in Canvas, you're going to find a link to something called design thinking. And it's going to be a PDF for you here. So we'll go to digital photography, we'll go to forecasting intro. And here's a link called design thinking. And it's a PDF that looks like this. Oh, I have somebody walking in my classroom. No, maybe not. Okay. Okay. Design thinking is a process to solve a problem or or create a solution for a specific audience yeah, okay, for a specific audience. Okay, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out a way to get students at West Salem High School to understand and engage in the forecasting process in a way that they find beneficial. Okay? So that's the goal. And you guys are going to do that through figuring out what kinds of photographs to take that would help them understand visually the process and the advantage of forecasting. Okay? And I'm going to leave it right there. So the first step is what's called empathy. Okay? And does anybody know the definition of the word empathy? Yes? Being able to sympathize with others? Yes. Understanding them, that's better. Because sympathy and empathy are very closely related and almost using the same word.
The ability to understand and share the feelings of another.
The ability to understand and share the feelings with somebody, with another person. Right. So it's the idea that you understand where this other person is coming from. Okay? You may not have had the same experience somebody else is having in their emotional reaction, but you can understand what they're going through. Some of us have experienced the loss of a pet that we had for a while. And for some people who've never had pets, when somebody has a very strong emotional reaction to losing a pet, sometimes that seems just kind of silly to some people. But for those of us who've experienced it, it's like, yeah, I totally get it. They're part of the family. They've been with me for years. I get it. I totally get it, right? And so if you didn't have a pet, but you had a friend who lost a pet and was very upset about it, your empathy would be able to say, you know what? I understand loss, and I understand as best as I can what you're going through. That is empathy. Okay? We had a little discussion about the difference between empathy and sympathy yesterday, but we'll just say that with empathy. Okay? So empathy is understanding another person's perspective and point of view. Okay? So I want you to take a couple of minutes. We'll give you, let's say, 3 minutes. And I want you to write down, and I'll put this in green up here, questions or concerns, whoops, oh, there we are, related to forecasting. So you, as a West Salem High School student, or other West Salem High School students that you know, what kind of questions or concerns or feelings do they have when it comes to this idea of forecasting? I'll give you a couple minutes to write down some thoughts on that. So really try to kind of think this through a little bit, because in this process of design thinking, I mean, this is really truly what people in the industry do when they're trying to come up with a promotional idea, either an ad or a video, a commercial or whatever. They need to really consider the audience that they're trying to reach and how they're going to do that. So a couple of examples that I shared related to doing something that relates to an audience. As you may know, when they create films, as they're in the process of finishing the film up, and they have some of it completed to a certain degree, they will show it to a test audience and try to figure out if what they're doing is really going to bring the reaction that they anticipate in their audience. And Home Alone 2, which you may have watched over this holiday season there at some point, there's a scene in there where this guy named Donald Trump shows up in this hotel where where the little boy is lost, is looking for directions. Now, there's some controversy as to how that scene actually happened, And I was reading some articles about it, and the director was not real keen on using that scene. But when that scene was included with the test audiences, they loved it. The test audiences thought it was great. They reacted real positively to that scene, so the director decided to keep it in. Now, if the director did what the director wanted to do, that scene would not have been included. But there you have the idea of understanding your audience and providing what your audience wants. The other one is there's an old movie in the 1980s called The Big Chill. And it's about a group of young adults who all went to college together, and they're getting back together because one of the people in their group had recently died. And they got together for the funeral and got together to kind of meet up again and all this kind of stuff. And the person who died was never seen in the movie, except for the very beginning. They showed the shoes and the pants of the person in the coffin, and they showed the cuff of the suit and the cuff of the shirt, and kind of making some final adjustments before the funeral. That was the only time that actor was in the movie. All other, the rest of the movie, you did not actually see a picture of who this person was. In the original cuts, they did include this person. This person is Kevin Costner. You might have heard of him, right? And it was really interesting that this movie was centered around these people getting together for a friend, but you never saw who this person was physically. But it worked better for the test audience because, anybody want to take a guess why? It's a really interesting concept when you think about it. Okay? And it's really kind of important when you're thinking about art. There's a way that artists try to get the viewers to be involved in the art in a way that they may not completely realize. So not giving this character a physical identity, everybody got to imagine what that person looked like and got to imagine who that person could be. And so everybody who watched the film had, in a sense, their own personal connection with that movie because that person was never physically identified. Which is kind of a cool concept when you think about it, right? Kind of cool. Okay, so who wants to share a question or concern or feeling about forecasting here at West Salem High School? What does this mean? It's just something you have to do kind of a thing? It's a necessary task that they make you do? No?
I'm just thinking about it.
I'm not understanding what you're thinking when you're thinking about it. Okay. Anybody else? How many think it's a good thing to do forecasting? A couple of you. How many think it's a valuable thing to do forecasting? A couple of you, come of you. How many think it's kind of a waste of time, really? Oh, good. I didn't see any hands there. That's good. Okay. How many feel that it's kind of confusing? Okay, you get a couple of confusings. How many think it's kind of overwhelming? Nobody. Oh, I get a couple people. Okay, cool. How many people feel you have no idea if or how you should prepare for forecasting? A couple of you. Okay. Cool. Now, from my perspective and my experience, when I see all the stuff that you guys go through and the counselors go through for forecasting, it's like, oh my gosh, this is such a huge process. Oh, man. Anyway. Okay, so it's a task that has to be done, okay? It is, hi, okay? It's a good thing in some respects. It's a little confusing in other respects, okay? And there is some value to it, at least for some people. Okay, now, one of the things that we need to do related to thinking about our audience is figure out, well, who is our audience? So who is forecasting for when we do this in February and early March? Us. Okay, could you define that a little bit more?
The students.
The students? Okay, which students? The questions sound really kind of duh, but you really have to ask them. Students at West Salem High School? Current students at West Salem High School? So as you're thinking about your audience, you start to ask more and more questions to get more and more clarity quickly. Okay? So this is how I do it. When I'm thinking about my specific audience, okay? It is students at West Salem High School, mostly. But it's going to be students who are at West Salem High School next academic year. Right? Okay. And this is how I do it. I do a class of, right? So the oldest class, that's a terrible word, that we're going to do it is class of 25, because class of 24 is graduating in June. So they don't need to do forecasting at West Salem High School. They need to forecast somewhere else. And then the class of 26, class of 27, and the class of 28. Okay? Now, why do I put class of as opposed to freshman, sophomore, junior, senior? Some people don't graduate. Some people take 5 years to graduate. Okay? That is the year of your anticipated graduation. So in a sense, it identifies you as your age. When we say freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, each group then changes their name as they advance to the next year, hopefully. Right? But you're always going to be class of 25, assuming you graduate in 25, or class of 26 or 27 or 28. Okay? Where is the class of 28 currently going to school? Where? Straub or Walker? They're middle school. They're 8th graders right now. They will be forecasting for West Salem High School in March. Maybe early April. I think March. Okay? So that's another thing that you have to think about. So currently, as we're thinking about doing this, they are currently juniors, sophomores, freshmen, and 8th graders. We should come up with another name for 8th graders. But anyway, we won't do that right now. Okay? Right? Are there going to be different questions, concerns, feelings amongst those different class ofs groups, among those different groups? Probably. Yeah. Yeah, right? And so if we're really going to think about how to do this, we have to be conscious of each of those 4 different groups. Okay? As we go about doing this. Now, the next one is the definition of what we actually have to, what is as specific as we can, what are we trying to communicate? What are we trying to do? Okay? So, let's try and put that into a sentence. So, what is the, let's say, final product for forecasting promo. Okay, what are we trying to communicate? So what are we communicating? So I want to have you take a couple of minutes, let's say 3 minutes, and try to answer that question. What are we trying to communicate? What are we trying to provide for classes of 25, 26, 27, 28? Okay, raise your hand if you have an answer to one of these or both of these questions. What is the final product for forecasting? And then what are we communicating? Anybody have an answer to either of those or both? Make the process of choosing classes as enjoyable as possible and successfully graduate. Is that what you said? To give you better classes. Okay, cool. I don't like that. Okay, so enjoy the process. And let's see, what was the other one? Talking about taking classes you want or taking good classes or?
So to basically make your schedule and your classes as enjoyable as possible for graduating.
I like that. Make schedule enjoyable. To graduate, yay! I know this is really small, but okay. Anybody else? I know. Do you want to share what you have? Okay, I respect that. Anybody else have any insights as to what we're trying to communicate or what we need to create to communicate what it is we're trying to communicate? Anybody? I like the idea of an enjoyable process. The whole word enjoy is kind of cool, okay? I'm going to think about the word, maybe this isn't a good word, but I'm thinking manageable, I'm thinking doable, I'm thinking useful, all right? So this is the other thing. Manageable. Okay. What would make the process easy? Don't you love these general questions? You're like, what's the teacher getting at? What can I do this? How can I do this? Right? Let's see. Okay. Let me put it over here. What kind of information does any particular student need to feel ready to do forecasting? What do I need to know?
Which ones to circle?
Well, part of it is which ones to circle. The other part of it is what choices do I have to then circle whatever choices I feel are best for me. All right? So that's the other thing. Okay, so now we're kind of getting here. So now we're getting to the definition of what we actually want to do. We want to try and make this process easy, enjoyable, useful, manageable, so that when it happens, students are like, yeah, I get this, right? Now, what's the significance of forecasting? I mean, think about it. So there's one really important document that everybody should be working on, theoretically through advisory, that will help you tremendously when you do this. Anybody have an idea what I'm talking about? Oh, I thought you raised your hand. Oh, you're just stretching. Oh, okay. Anybody have a PEP? A PEP? Anybody know what a PEP is? Phew, I'm so glad you guys are doing this. I am so glad you guys are doing this. Okay, so PEP is a personal education plan. Now everybody's supposed to do it, and it's supposed to be done, and it's supposed to be something that you have completed so that you can graduate. It is a requirement of requirements of graduation. We got to do that. It's not just finishing 24 units. There's some other stuff to that. So personal education plan means I'm going to complete these classes. I'm going to, sufficiently get at least 24 units, probably more, by a certain amount of time. And this is the order in which I'm going to complete these classes, okay? Core classes are pretty kind of set in stone. There's really not a lot you can do to change those. There might be some things, but not too much. But your elective classes, there are a ton of elective classes here at West Salem High School that can be kind of overwhelming, okay? Let's see here. Grad requirements. Okay, all right, so there's that. Okay, so anything else? So now we have the definition. Ideation is actually starting to think about what you're actually going to create, okay? So this is what I want you to do for the next little bit is make sure you have all this written down, because yes, I want to see at least this in your notes, and yes, you need to turn it in. And yes, you'll get graded on it, okay? And if you have any other things that are added to this, like other ideas for what's the final product or what we were communicating, that would be totally awesome, okay? Now we need to think about, in more specifics, what kind of information specifically students are going to need, and what kind of grad requirements are out there. And how or where do you find a list of all the classes that you can choose from? Anybody know that? Yes?
There's a catalog online.
There is a catalog online. Do you remember what that catalog is called? It's called a course catalog. Yes. Okay. And I don't know if 2425 is available online just yet, because I think they might be finishing up some details with that. Okay. So let me put that in green. Okay. Put that over here. Course catalog. Okay. So in your notes, start putting down specific information that is going to be needed for students to have so that they can be prepared to make these decisions.